I'm going to let you in on the secret that has allowed me to build my current physique. This secret is the single biggest thing that I can teach you to help you make gains for a lifetime. And the best part is this is something you can apply to your own training as soon as you finish watching this video. But make sure you watch till the end because I'm going to hook you up with a free workout plan you can apply this secret to make great gains for 2023 and beyond. Okay, are you ready for it? My secret is that there is no secret, Dragon Warrior. But seriously, the secret that has been responsible for me being able to build my physique is that nothing about my training plan is optimal. That's right, my workouts are not, nor have they ever been optimal, according to what researchers have learned about optimizing for strength and muscle gains. Yet I've still built a strong, aesthetic, and functional physique. In fact, not only is my plan not optimal, but I know that had I programmed for optimal over the years, I would have gotten way worse results and would not be sitting here talking to you with the physique that I have today. I guess that means suboptimal is actually optimal. It's kind of like Inception, but with the gymception. Anyway, let me explain. We navigate life with the help of mental models. A mental model is just a framework that you carry around in your mind that helps you make sense of how life works. Now I'm going to give you an example. Hard work breeds success is a common mental model. And while it may be true most of the time, it's not true all of the time. Now you can work very hard and achieve great success, but you can also work super hard and fail miserably. So while mental models can help us in our decision making, they can also cause our brains to work against us, sabotaging the likelihood that we accomplish our goals. And this is exactly how they tend to work when it comes to fitness and building a great physique. Now I'm going to illustrate my point like this. How many hours a week do you think I work out? Answer in the comments below, but be honest and answer prior to me giving you the answer. I strength train a total of 2.5 hours a week. That's it. 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And I do it at home with almost no equipment. So why is that even important? It's important because most of us have a mental model that tells us that in order to build a great physique, we need an optimal program. And our idea of optimal usually includes going to a gym or at least having access to a bunch of equipment, as well as putting in an hour to an hour and a half every day of weights plus cardio. Now, the reason that this common mental model is so damaging is that if you're going to put the time and energy into exercise, you want to get results. You want to build a great physique, right? But in order to build a great physique, according to the common mental model, you need an optimal program and you need to execute it consistently. But an optimal program is simply unsustainable for most people. Shoot, it was unsustainable for me. Hey, story time. So my old mental model was that I needed to stick to an optimal plan to get good results. And it worked out just fine 17 years ago before my wife and I had kids. Then we had my daughter, and there was no way I was going to be able to get away from the house to the gym 6 days a week for an hour and a half each session while I leave my wife at home taking care of a new baby. So I stopped working out consistently. I would still squeeze in a workout here and there, maybe once a week, but in my mind it was pointless. After all, what was I going to do in 1 hour a week? Besides, I told myself I would get back to training once the baby got a little bit older and everything would be fine. Well, a little older turned into a year and a half of me skipping the gym and gaining 50 pounds. Now, my wife had been telling me, as lovingly as she could, that I was gaining weight and getting fat. I had let the dream of optimal become the enemy of taking action. Now, it wasn't until I went to the doctor that it hit me. He walked in the room, looked at me with a concerned look, and then told me he was worried about my weight. He said that at a 34.5 BMI, which I was considered obese. That was a low point. I honestly felt like I'd just been punched in the face. But with my wife and I both having careers and a new toddler, I needed a plan that was sustainable, but I still wanted results. So I hit the books and I started to study the scientific literature on just how much exercise is required to successfully build strength and muscle mass. Now, what I found completely changed how I look at training. It changed my mental model. And that change is exactly why I lost weight, built my current physique, and never went backward again. Now, my current mental model, and the one that I want you to adopt, is this. A great physique can be built with a good plan executed consistently. You do not need an optimal plan. Now, the difference between a good plan and an optimal plan is that a good plan can yield you 80% of the gains of an optimal plan, but you can get it in 50% of the time commitment. 80% of the gains in 50% of the time. Trust me, this is a trade that you want to make. Now, you aren't going to notice a visible difference between gaining 8 pounds of muscle in a year or 10. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, I'm going to adopt this mindset, then I'm still going to struggle to invest the time required. I'm going to feel even worse about myself. But don't stress, it's bad for gains, but also I'm about to ease your mind. 90% of the people watching this are going to fall into one of two categories. either beginning training, which is less than 12 months of recent progressive resistance exercise under your belt, or intermediate, which is more than 12 months, but less than 3 years of continuous progressive resistance exercise under your belt, while the other 10% or so of you will be considered advanced training. Now, the amount of resistance training that you need to do to stimulate gains in strength and muscle mass are going to depend on your current skill level. If you are a novice, you're only going to need to perform 2 to 4 sets per muscle per week. If you are intermediate, you're going to need to perform 4 to 6 sets per muscle per week. And if you are an advanced trainee, you're going to need to perform 9 to 12 sets per muscle per week. Now, I know what you're probably thinking, but JT, won't more sets equal more gains? And the answer is not really, not really. And that's because the first set that you perform for a given exercise is responsible for somewhere around 70% of the total gains possible from that exercise. The second set that you perform for a given exercise is responsible for about another 10% of the total possible gains that you can get out of that exercise. And each additional set that you add contributes a progressively smaller amount to hypertrophy. So the more sets you do for a given exercise, the less efficient each subsequent set becomes. So the first 2 sets of an exercise are the money sets. Does that make sense? Now there's 8 exercises that I suggest you perform and apply this mental model to. And like I told you at the beginning of the video, I'm going to give you those 8 exercises. But first, let's look at the total time commitment to training. But for a beginner, and you perform 4 sets of each of these 8 exercises per week. 4 sets at 1 minute per set times 8 exercises gives us 32 minutes of active training. Now let's throw in a minute between sets for rest. And now you're looking at 64 minutes per week of strength training. You can do this. Now, if you're an intermediate, it's just over an hour and a half a week. So 3 32-minute strength training sessions. Again, most people can do this. And for advanced training, you're going to fall right around that 2.5 hour mark where I am. But here's the coolest part. Any muscle mass that you build is much easier to sustain than it was to gain in the first place. And that means that during times when life gets crazy and you aren't able to commit as much time to strength training, you can perform 1 or 2 high-effort sets a week and you can maintain your gains. So at times when life gets crazy, don't give up. Just stay consistent with that minimum dose. This way you'll sustain what you've got until you're able to train a little more frequently again. Because honestly, half the battle in building a great physique is just making sure that you never go backwards. Now, in order for this type of lower volume training to work, it's extremely important that you do 2 things. The number 1 thing you're going to have to do is apply a high intensity of effort to all of your sets. And the number 2 thing is you're going to have to do so in a progressive manner. Now, a high intensity of effort simply means putting enough effort into each set to take it close to momentary muscular failure. You don't need to fail, you just need to get close. Now, doing that in a progressive manner just means that week to week, you're either adding reps to your sets, or you're making the sets more difficult by adding weight or making the exercise harder. And you're not going to make gains every single week. Progress is never linear. It's always a stair-step pattern. So there will be weeks where maybe you don't add reps to your push-ups, or maybe you're not scaling an exercise, and that's okay, as long as the overall trend is up and you're making progress over time. Now I'm going to give you the 8 exercises I promised I was going to give you for you to apply your new mental model to. Just do between 2 and 12 of each of the 8 exercises featured in this video right here.